see or... Immediately, there's a conference, right?
Right. You come and tell me at that time, huh? Okay.
Yeah, Umair, hello, hello. इसको हटा दो यहाँ से, मैं ये भी नहीं होगा, इसको हटा दो यहाँ से।
Testing.
इसको हटा दो, ये भी नहीं होगा यहाँ से। क्यों है?
To the second day of this international conference. As tradition demands, we will start the proceedings with the recitation of the Holy Quran by Muhammad Asadul Haq.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you, Asadul. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem of Pakistan. Please take your seats quickly. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just to start things off, I would like you to welcome the two speakers for the first session, Mr. Sunil P. Disanayaka and Mr. David Bona, with a round of applause. Everybody, put your hands together. Ladies and gentlemen, there are so many of you here, and I was told by Asfar Hassan that you're all very dynamic people representing some top companies in the corporate sector here. Now, if you clap your hands like that, you remind me of a group of old ladies clapping hands on a Sunday afternoon bridge party. Let's bring the roof down. One of the key facets of leadership and management is whatever you do, give it your best shot. Ladies and gentlemen, once upon a time, there lived a person called Pablo Casals. He was a renowned musician, an outstanding cellist. On his 83rd birthday, he allowed a journalist to come to his house to write an article about him. So when the journalist walked, he saw two servants, man servants, bringing down Mr. Pablo Casals on the staircase. Before he went for his breakfast, he stopped at his favorite piano. He was so feeble at the age of 83, he could hardly walk. He sat on the stool in front of the piano. One of the manservants lifted his right hand and placed it on the keyboard. The other man took his left hand and placed that hand on the keyboard. and they stood back. For about a minute or two, nothing happened. Then in a short while, this little finger started moving. This little finger, and the fingers one by one. And lo and behold, within a short period of time, Pablo Casals, the renowned musician, was playing melodious music on the piano. How did that happen? Here is a man who could hardly walk. He can't even raise his hands to the piano keyboard. I mentioned a young science called psychocybernetics yesterday, which was propounded by the dermatologist, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, where we show the power of the mind in terms of productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness. So here too, because he had a passion for music, anything else, his body would not get activated. But because he had a passion, the mind was so focused that physically he got activated. So in the context of event management, the current scenario, as you know, was adequately described yesterday. To come out and get the best out of the situation, young managers must develop their leadership qualities and work with a passion. Right? We'll start the first session today. The first presentation is by my dear friend from Sri Lanka, Mr. Sunil P. Disanayaka. He's a highly respected HR specialist in Sri Lanka. He's the head of human resources of one of the top blue chip companies in Sri Lanka with a lot of international connections. And the company is the Haley's Group of Company, a well-respected company. To talk to you on the role of HR professionals, to put HR in the front seat, I give you Sunil P. Disanayaka.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, friends. It's a pleasure to speak at the first opening session at a conference rather than speak after lunch. But the downside is that you speak to an empty hall in the mornings usually, but congratulations to all of you. You are here on time, so the hall is not empty. Let me recognize Mr. Aswa, the Managing Director of Nutshell Forum, and my friend Dr. Upali Mahanama, the Program Director. Actually, Mr. Aswa invited me way back in 2008 when he had this conference in Karachi, and I was pleased to be there. And this time when he invited me, I thought I must arrive in Pakistan again, because it's always a pleasure to impart knowledge to people, whatever the little that you have gathered in your career. And last night actually, I read the magazine called Manager Today, which is in front of your table, with the interview with Mr. Aswa. When I read through it, I saw some commonalities between him and me. One thing is that both of us respected our grandfathers, and there has been a bearing on our upbringing and what we are today due to our grandparents. And of course, there's a difference that he says that he doesn't want to go on a path that is already there, but he would like to trace a path and then leave a trail. But I would like traditionally I have been a person who went down a path, and here I am today, given this path to come here. Another point in his interview was about the need to regulate NGOs, non-governmental organizations. And my mind went back to the tsunami of 2004, when our country received about US dollars 20 billion in aid. But if you go to Sri Lanka today and look at the areas that were damaged by the tsunami, you don't see half the work done. Not even $1 billion would have been spent. And one of the primary reasons for that, this is my personal view, is that when an NGO donates money, first they arrive in Sri Lanka, then they get the best possible accommodation, which they may not even get at home. Then they buy a luxury vehicle, chauffeur-driven. Then they entertain in hotels. And then they are paid very high salaries, more than what would be normally paid in the market. So half of this 20 billion goes for the upkeep of those NGOs who have donated the money. And there's nothing left to do the work. So I think a point about regulation is important. And Pakistan and Sri Lanka are great friends. Your country has been supporting us a great deal in the past. And my mind goes back to 1976, when we, in our country, hosted the non-aligned conference. I don't know how many of you have heard of the non-aligned states, countries that are not aligned to the Commonwealth. And we had 86 heads of state in our country. And at that time, I graduated in hotel management, and I happened to be the manager in charge of the delegates restaurant in the conference hall where the conference was being held. And on the last day of the conference, it finished at 3 o'clock in the morning, and your late Prime Minister, Mr. Sulfik Ali Bhutto, who was a great friend of our Prime Minister at the time, Madam Sirima Bandaranaike, together with Archbishop Makarios of Cyprus, and I think Colonel Mohammed Gaddafi of Libya. All of them walked into the restaurant and said, we want dinner at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we gave them dinner. So that's something that stuck in my mind. And Sri Lanka is a great country. I'm not batting for Sri Lanka, but we are free of terrorism. We are one of the safest countries in the world at the moment. And if you like to visit, there are flights on Sri Lankan Airlines and as well as, I think, on PIA. So going to my talk, that's the content which I'm going to share with you today. I will talk to you a little bit. I think I have another 25 minutes. 5 minutes is already gone. I'll talk to you about a little bit about my company, because there's nothing called a free lunch. And when I asked permission from my chairman to come here and speak to you, he said, talk about a little bit of our company as well. Because who knows, there might be investment opportunities, and there might be somebody in the audience who might think this is a great organization to work with in Sri Lanka. So I'll talk a little bit about our company, and then I will talk to you about HR strategy, personal views on HR practices, HR administration, HR measurement, job banding and remuneration management, organizational development, talent management and succession planning, employee recognition, relations, and we'll have a short question and answer. Actually, I'll talk to you from a practitioner's viewpoint. Each of those items are from my personal experiences that I will talk to you. And I will emphasize the need for, I think in the audience there are students, there are professionals from other disciplines, senior management of organizations, and also HR practitioners. So the theme of my talk today will be to emphasize on the need to be technically competent in the on the HR supply chain. If you want to position your HR organization in your organizations in the front seat. That's the theme of my talk, putting HR on the front seat. And the HR professionals here, you are the only people who can do that. And you can do that only through your competence and capability. Right? If you see in our country, we sometimes have foreign consultants who come over from different organizations, sometimes because maybe we don't have the expertise. And most of these consultants, after the initial discussions, they go back and then send somebody else to work with the organization. And most of the time, that somebody else is a fresh graduate who had just passed out. The difference between the fresh graduate and the HR people from my country who work with them is that maybe sometimes they are a little bit more confident and well presented. But in terms of technical know-how, it may not up to the level that is required. But these consultants get through because the HR person who is managing that function, the counterpart from the company, is not as knowledgeable. So you pay a lot of money, but what you get in return may be different. So that's why the HR people need to be more competent and more knowledgeable than anybody else. Right? And also your acceptance in the organizations as HR people comes from your knowledge and competence. If you look at, I wonder how many of you are at board level in your organizations who are HR heads, who are on the senior management teams, who are in decision-making bodies in your organizations. So ask yourself that question, and if not, why aren't you there?